132 weeks of reselling online and operating as a small business. Now, over these weeks of learning, selling, and building a business that suits my lifestyle, I've had a huge revelation which I think is going to help you also level up your business if that's your intent. Now, if you're a part-timer, full-timer, side hustler, or however you're doing the reselling, flipping game, I think there's something that you really need to consider to help potentially boost your ability to resell for the long term. And look, this won't be for everyone. However, I think it is a very valid conversation you probably need to have with yourself. Now, I have personally covered this topic before, but I think with more people joining the channel, hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here. And I think there's also some really big changing factors within the whole environment and the world of reselling. Now, if this sounds like you, if you're very interested, well, then this is the perfect video for you. Hey, what's going on? My name's Chris. Welcome back to the channel. I really do appreciate you being here. Now, if you are new here, I'm building a business that suits my lifestyle. And that's essentially what we're talking about today, is building a business, the comparison of a reseller mindset versus a small business mindset. And I think you need to choose one that's going to enable you to get to where you want to be. Now, for me, I have a small business mindset. That's how I like to operate my reselling business. Now, I'm not here to say that, okay, you can't be a reseller and not have a business, or you can't have a reseller mindset because that means you're not operating a business, or you can't have a small business mindset and not be a reseller. Look, I'm not here to say that. What I'm here to say is there's a difference between the two, and I think different ones have different advantages. And I also think there's some relevancy for us to be able to see how we can leverage changing mindsets to enable our growth. Now, I will be frank here. This is generalized. It's from my own personalized experience and from my own learnings and lessons, but more so, I'm just wanting to present my perspective and also my opinions. So you might not agree with it, which is fine because we all operate and we all work in a different way and a different manner. So what is the reseller mindset? Now, traditionally, a reseller has a mindset for short-term goals, because the idea is that you're going to purchase a product at a very low price and then sell it for a profit. And essentially a reseller operating as a middleman, right? Like, the business strategy is to be highly dependent on finding products that they can sell for more. Now, I know I'm a reseller as well, right? When I first started, I was following the op shop model and looking for items that I knew about that I could pick up for $1 or $2 and flip for a quick $40 or whatever it may be. That, I think, is one of the big components of a reseller mindset. It is that short-term focus. Resellers obviously have to focus on immediate profit from the items that they purchase and get that transaction happening as soon as possible, which kind of removes the whole position and focus on a long-term growth or sustainability. And a component of this is sometimes it comes with branding. Now, this one I actually find a little controversial. Like, I don't actually necessarily agree with it, because I think there's people out there that are just flipping, just getting things out there for the sake of trying to make money, and do not even think about branding. And when I think about branding, it's just the whole experience for your customers to know who you are and why they would want to come back in the first place. But I also think there are some really, really good resellers, flippers, people out there that, might not be thinking about a long-term business solution or a long-term business idea, but they have really good branding because they're consistent with how they deliver and they are consistent with the items that they source. So I think, look, it's not a true one-to-one kind of thing. It's like, oh no, if you have a reseller mindset, you can't be doing this, or if you have a small business mindset, you can't be doing that. I'm open for all of it, and I'm just exploring and sharing what I've been able to, put together to help you better understand some of the differences. Now, I think one thing though that resellers with a reseller mentality forget to do is have a customer relationship. Since the focus is on the product, since the focus is in, flipping $1 to $100 or making that quick turnover as quickly as possible, there is a lack of customer relationship. But when we start to build those customer relationships, it starts to change the conversation, because you're now sourcing items and you're able to sell it to a regular rather than trying to find someone to buy it, through the mediums of eBay or Facebook Marketplace or whatever it may be. The reseller mindset requires a constant hustle. Now, what I mean by this is reselling often requires the constant need to be sourcing more products and deals. It's looking for the next best deal, the next best thing to be able to continue to flip and make some money, which requires a significant amount of time investment, but also it can run the risk of, like, you just don't find what you're looking for to be able to flip, because it is becoming quite a competitive market and it is a very strong side hustle, right? Which is why I think sometimes having that constant hustle, like, it's good to have hustle and you need to have hustle to build a business anyway, but because it's identified as a hustle as well, it means there's more people trying to do the same thing and you're competing against more people to get to that next best thing. Which kind of leads to the next point, which is there is a low control over supply and pricing. We are at the mercy, if you're a reseller, you're at the mercy of the people that are selling the stuff to you and the market for their pricing. A good example of this is during COVID, video games were super hot. And it was interesting because people just were buying them up like crazy because everyone was stuck at home. But then there came a bit of a supply issue because no one could actually get them. So the pricing of video games just skyrocketed, even to source and to sell. And that became a bit of a challenge. And again, because people realized, no, this is worth more. And they didn't necessarily need the money during COVID because a lot of people were saving. A lot of people were getting handouts and they were able to demand top dollar for them. All right, so that's some of the generalized points around a reseller mindset. So the difference for a small business mindset is more about building that sustainable long-term business. Now, this often involves creating a brand, but I've already discussed that it's not always necessarily the case. But I think the key points that differ is building those customer relationships, focusing on long-term growth and sustainability, and also leveraging processes. So let's break down those a little bit. So the first one is long-term focus. Now, small businesses often focus on sustainability or a steady growth, that constant growth, and they're willing to sacrifice immediate profit for long-term success. Now for me, this is me personally. Like, I have a small business mindset. I'm thinking longevity. I'm thinking 2, 3, 5 years down the line. And in order to get to those positions, what's it going to take? Now, sometimes that can be obviously a weakness for me because I get too much stuck into the numbers and the thinking. And I'm not here to say one is better than the other. 100% no. But the reason why I believe it's important to be able to have that long-term focus is because I know where I want to take this business. Now, you can be a reseller and have a business, and you can be a reseller and have a small business mindset. That's completely fine. Again, it comes down to mentality and what's driving you, your mentality, why you're doing it, and I guess how you go about operating. So, for instance, building a brand is a very strong component of a small business mindset. Small businesses, or someone with a small business mindset in this case, would often spend more time and resources building a brand and a business identity. Now, what this means is it helps attract and retain customers. Again, I don't necessarily agree with this. Now, I've just done some research and pulled up different points together. I actually think that there are some really, as I said before, some really good people doing, just flipping on the side, but have a very core brand because people know what they're selling. Like, they might have a niche market. And I think that's probably the better way of looking at this is when you brand and you have a niche, the niche actually does you the branding for you, because if people are looking for a particular item, let's say it was Nintendo DS games, right? And you are the one on eBay selling the most of them, naturally you start to build that niche brand because people know, oh no, that guy sells heaps of them. He has more than anyone else. And you don't actually have to do any work for branding. Whereas when it's a small business mindset, the idea is regardless of what you're selling, there is a level of branding that's going to be tried to be produced. I think the next one is strong customer relationships, but also building those networks and relationships. So traditionally, small businesses often focus on customer service first and building relationships with their customers. Now, I think we all have to do this when we're reselling online regardless, but there is this different mentality of, how can I have someone come back and buy 5 items opposed to, I just want to flip this item and get the top dollar for it, because this can lead to repeat business, customer loyalty, and it means that you're doing less work to get the money. Now, on the similar boat, when we think about relationships and networking, building that ecosystem of suppliers, of networks, of relationships where you're working together with other people to achieve your longer term goals. Meaning you might have a customer that will only buy certain things from you, and you've got that, handshake agreement or that agreement in place that you're able to sell to them very, very quickly. Or working with your suppliers, or working with different people within your network to be able to leverage opportunity, more stock, new opportunities in terms of growth, volume, cost price, and things like this. This all changes a lot. Now, when it's someone that's just flipping, 10 items a week or something, that level of ability to call leverage, to lean on, opportunity won't always necessarily be there, because depending who you're working with might not see the opportunity the same way you do. Whereas as a small business, if they're going for longevity, that's usually meeting the same goals of a supplier or someone that is actually going to be sourcing for you as well. I think the next one is investing in systems and processes. This is probably the key part that separates someone that's just doing it as a little side hustle or, just as a reseller mentality versus someone that's doing this as a business and wants to scale it for the long term, is building a system and process and investing time in that. So when you have processes and systems in place, it enables you to scale your business, meaning whether you're putting one item through it or 100 items. And that is what separates you with the ability to grow quicker. I also think when we have a small business mindset, we're actually able to start to have a higher control over supply and pricing. And this kind of comes back to the networking and relationships point that I said before. So when we start to work with wholesalers, when we start to work with people that are able to produce, and when I say produce, not necessarily create or manufacture, but actually supply the stock that it is we're trying to always continuously move or continuously sell, it means we're actually able to have a bit more control in the conversation because we're going for quantity and volume. As I said before, if you're going to someone and say, hey, look, I want to buy that item and I only want to pay 30% less for it, and you want to buy one of them, well, that's not really going to float very easily for, someone selling that item. Now, if you come back to them and say, hey, look, I want to buy 300 of these, can I get a 30% discount? The conversation starts to get a little bit more real because they can say, okay, there's a quantity volume game here. And just like you, if someone came to you today and they saw all your stock and they said, hey, look, if I buy 50 of your items, you've got them at $10 each. Can I buy them at $5 each? Is that a conversation you're willing to entertain, or are you still going for that top dollar? So I think when we start to change the way we think, it starts to change the way we can operate, and it starts to change the way that we can grow, which is usually why we have a reseller mentality and a small business mindset. Now, again, I'm not here to say one is better than the other, and there's probably a mixture of the two. So one thing that I do want to address for everyone is how a small business mindset can actually be very beneficial, but I'm also going to touch on some of the reselling side of that as well. So sustainability is a key point here, and I think when you're building that small business or building with a small business mindset, it can lead to more sustainable business practices and it build in that long-term success because you're doing things today that is putting you in place for a longer term, 1, 2, 3, 5 years, expectation. There is that brand loyalty. We have mentioned that already, but I think that it can actually play in favor for either party. One of them's just more intentional. The other one might just actually be an accident because of, following a niche market. Scalability, I think this is super key because when we do start to focus on a small business mentality, that scalability conversation comes in very quickly because, if you're doing this as a side hustle, reseller mentality, it might actually be that, you're just wanting to make an extra $100 a week or $200 or $1,000 a month. That's fine, 100% fine. There comes a level of point where it's like the economies of scale. You need to actually implement something to enable you to grow. Otherwise, it just won't actually happen because there's too many things happening, right? And I think while flipping and trying to get different deals and different items, that causes that challenge. Whereas when you have a process, when you have a way of working, a way of doing things, that scalability becomes very easy because you can start to pump through not just one item through the system, but hundreds of items. And that's what then enables that scalability with ease. I'm not saying it's easy, it makes it easier. And then we had control, right? And that comes down to the types of conversations that you can have and how you can lead those conversations to your advantage because you have power in the market or the ecosystem. And I think also value creation. This one is something that I didn't really touch on before, but value creation as a small business, you have the ability to personalize a unique offering, meaning you're able to increase your margin, you're able to create personalized experiences because you have better leverage for a better service. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is not possible with a reseller mentality, by all means, not at all. But there is that higher level of value creation or opportunity because you're working at a larger scale. There is that ability to do that. Now, what about advantages of a reseller mindset and how I think this actually can work in the favor for a lot of people? Like, I'm not here to be biased or anything like that. I think there's genuinely some really good aspects for both parties, and each one of us are going to be very different. So a reseller mindset, essentially, it's a great place to start where if you wanted to actually get into the world of reselling, right? It's perfect for those just wanting to do a little side income before transitioning into a small business mindset, meaning before going into a full-fledged business and, starting to get a bit more serious about it and seeking opportunities for growth and profitability in the long term. So for the reseller mentality, there's a low entry barrier, meaning you can get into this very, very quickly. You can start from home, you can do this anywhere. Jumping into a small business mentality from the start doesn't actually really work that well, because unless you've already been doing this for a long time and you're starting from scratch again, you need to learn so much. And jumping in with this reseller mentality of just like, I want to grab that, flip it, and turn it into $100 and then rinse and repeat, that's actually perfect. It's a really good option for many, many people. And it also gives you the flexibility. Being just a small time reseller or having a reseller mentality, it means you can be flexible. You're usually not relying on this money as your livelihood. It's not your full-time income. On your livelihood, it's not your full-time income, which means it gives you the advantage to be able to slow down, speed up, and do what you want to do when you want to do it. It also means it's a huge learning opportunity, which leads you into the ability to be able to build a sustainable business. Because when we take the time to learn and take the time to actually go through and figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, you can start to play that into the real world of building a business, right? And it means you can learn areas around market research, negotiation, customer service, how to leverage an e-commerce platform such as eBay, or how to, transfer other skills that you might have from a different business into this and building it into a better bolstered business. There's also a low commitment. When we start talking about a small business, there is a bit more of a commitment. There's more, requirements, and there's more, expectations running a business. But when you're doing this as just as a, part-timer or someone that just wants to focus on flipping items, it means that you don't have a big commitment to this. It means you can change things up. You can slow down. You don't have to keep doing it, right? It gives you the advantage of being able to make those rapid, decisions instantly, right? If you don't want to do something, okay, you don't have to do it, and you can liquidate, and it means you can get out of the game very, very quickly. Running a small business, you don't necessarily have that luxury, because there might be bigger things at play. You might start to build relationships with people. You might employ someone, or you might have, you need to pay something back, or there's different things at play on a whole different level. Now, I think this is where a lot of people get confused when I start talking about small business mentality and reseller mentality, because, neither one is better than the other. There's only going to be one that's better for you. And I think the way I can explain this is, you can be super profitable just doing a reseller mentality approach. Because if you can constantly find an in-demand product that you can purchase for a low price and still make a significant profit, well, then it can be a very lucrative business for you. And you can follow all the other traits. You can take it easy. You don't have to be worrying about scaling, because it might be such a perfect niche for you that it just works. And then naturally that will become a business without you even knowing. That, I think, is what separates the difference between the mentality of a reseller to a small business, is because the small business wants to provide that consistency, right? And be known for a certain level of product opportunity or offering. Whereas the reseller mentality side of things is more about, what can I find, how can I flip it, and how can I turn it around as quickly as possible. Now that does work as a model, but the problem is there's a level of consistency that isn't always there. But I think it can be done with a niche. The other component of having a reseller mentality that is a huge advantage is there's less responsibility. With no branding, no reputation necessarily, I think if you have this mentality, you face less pressure, and there's lower customer expectations. You're literally just trying to take one item, get it to the next person. Now, I actually think that, with this, it actually, again, it removes some of the stress. It removes some of the level of always focusing on what's next, and just being able to do this as you like, as you please, and with ease. So I think, look, there's a lot covered there, and if people have more questions about this, more than happy to answer. I'm not here to say one is better than the other. I've said that very clearly. I think, while a small business mindset often leads to a greater long-term growth of sustainability, I think the reseller mindset still offers a very good entry point and enables people to get into learning the ways of e-commerce, or selling on eBay, or even operating as a business, and may actually be the better option for some people, depending on your circumstances and goals. I'm not here to say, oh yeah, if you want to start reselling and you want to build a business, quit your job and just start from zero. No, that wouldn't be the smart way to do it. Start with this reseller mentality, with the lack of responsibility or the less of responsibility, and you're able to just take your time, be flexible, learn and grow, and figure out what works for you. Then once you've got that figured out, that's when you can start to apply this small business mindset approach and build it out of how can I scale this? How can I do this at 10x the volume? How can I enable myself to grow and turn this into, a cash generating machine, or, a livelihood or a full-time income? I think that's what separates them both. But you can be either. You can be a reseller and have a small business, or you can be a small business and not even be a reseller, right? It works both ways. It's not about separating people as, oh no, you're a small business, you're a reseller. But my mentality personally is a small business mindset, because I'm thinking longer term. But my roots are a reseller. And I think once you start to realize that most businesses these days are following a component of reselling anyway, unless you're manufacturing something, you're not really reselling because you're producing something. But if you're buying something for super low price and selling it for a higher price, that's a reseller. Well, that's all you're doing, right? Buying low, selling high. It's everywhere that we look. We've spoken about this quite a lot in detail. Again, if you do have more questions about this, more than happy to continue the conversation. We're going to jump into what's actually been happening for this week for me, week 132. And before I do that, I do have a question for you. Which one are you? Are you someone that's operating with a reseller mindset or reseller mentality? Or are you someone that has more of a small business mindset and you're operating more of that small business mentality? Let me know in the comments below. All right, so week 132. It's actually been an interesting week. It's been below average in terms of sales wise, in terms of volume for me, big time, and also with revenue as well. However, look, though I didn't necessarily hit the targets that I wanted to hit, it's still been a pretty good week. I can't really complain. So here's all the items that have been selling. As you can see, clothes, jeans have been the big one for this week, and also electronics, which is through my consignment deal. And you can see there's been some other great categories still making some dollary doos this week. Now, in terms of some of the top items or some of the cool items that I wanted to share this week, I've only got 3 for you actually, because a lot of them have actually been just a lot of clothing, and it's nothing super exciting. I mean, for me it is, but I'm wanting to share back to you, maybe some of the different styles of stuff that I still sell. So the first item that I'll share with you this week is this Xbox 360 bundle. Now, this one I got out of a lot. It's cost about $5.50. I purchased a lot of stuff last year in lead up to the new financial year, just to get, some different diversity into the store, knowing that I'm still, wanting to have that diversity. Anyway, about $5.42. Revenue on this one was $65. Because such a low buy-in, I was able to sell this for a low price as well. Ideally, you could probably get $80 to $99 for this. I took $65 and profited $37.23. Another big win for this week was 2.8 kilos of Lego. It was actually multiple lots of like 500 grams, but they came through and purchased a whole bunch of it. So they spent about $150. Now, this one cost me around $21. This lot of 2.8 kilos of Lego. It was some red, yellow. I think there was also some black in there as well. I've profited $93.61 after fees and postage. And another item that I thought was interesting is a Region B Blu-ray movie, which I usually do all my items free post, like, those kind of Blu-rays, DVDs, locally as free post untracked. However, I've just gone through and I've upgraded all that. It's no longer free postage, but I had turned on international shipping for all of them as well. I didn't have it on a lot of the on the Blu-ray media or the DVDs either. Turned it on. This one sold instantly. It was really random. It's gone over to the US. I've had a conversation with them. Yes, they have a multi-region player. They've paid $35.91 for this item, so I've made about $15.93 after fees and postage. So week 132, sales, 79 sales, so a bit lower than normal. Usually I'm up around that 100 mark. We still have a pretty good margin. We've done a cost of goods of $450. We've sold just shy of $2,500 worth with a profit of $1,072. ASP was $31 with an average cycle time of 107 days. So all in all, still pretty good. All right, I'm going to give you some quick show and tell behind the scenes, what's been happening, and then we're going to wrap up this video. All right, team, it is Monday morning and we've got a big day ahead of us. So we'll be doing some photos and stuff here today. As you can see, still got quite a lot to get through. I actually just went to Salvo's just before here and picked up a whole bunch of different stuff. So that will add to the pile. Also got some stuff that's going to be getting ready to go out for clean, and got this flat sitting to just get out creases. But in terms of what's been selling over the weekend, I think we've done 36 sales. It's been pretty good, all things considered. I mean, it would have been nice if it was a bit higher, but no, so 34. We've got 34 going out. We're sitting at 40,600, so we've got quite a few things happening. We've got actually surprisingly a lot of books over the weekend. These ones have been sitting around for a while, but finally good to let them go. A lot of fantasy stuff, a few bundles, some Sabrina, got a few other books there, some media. We've got some perfume going out that was donated by Sandra for Backpack for the Kids. We've got an old phone going out. This is one of the old HP business phones, pretty cool. Lots of clothes. We've got jackets, we've got fleece, we've got jeans, we've got shirts, a few bundles in there. Very grateful. I actually just consolidated all this on the weekend. Basically got back, I think it was a total of 2 rows. Where's all the boxes? Here, so cleared all those out. We're actually starting to run out of space, so I've got lots of work to do. My worker is currently away at the moment, so it's just me doing everything, which is okay. Keeps me honest. Yeah, let's get this packing up. I've got to clean up a bit of mess from here on the weekend, and we'll get into it. So it's all happening. This stuff never gets old. Never gets old. Love what I do. All right, let's do it. All right, team. All packed up. Not too bad. Now I've still got to put in the mail bag, wherever I put that, somewhere. Now we're going to start doing some. We're going to do some photos. I'm going to go through this stuff here. We've got this pure wool jacket, and we've got some kappa. Got some hang 10 in there, and then some cheap denim stuff that were $2 a piece at the Salvos. Probably going to do some North Face as well because we are at the end stretch of winter, so a lot of the jeans I'll probably just put on backlog because they're a bit more bread and butter. And I've also got these denim jackets, well, not jackets, they're denim shirts that I really want to still do as well, so plenty of stock here for when my work is back as well. But I think I'm going to tackle this and just let's get it. Howdy team. It is what's today? Tuesday. So today I'm going to continue on some fleece stuff. I've actually just had more stock arrive, which I'm just going to have to shuffle a few things right now. I've got all this to pull out. So basically at the moment what I'm doing is just getting all stock and everything ready. So usually I would have obviously my worker doing stuff with me, so I'd be able to double down and do multiple amounts, but while it's just myself, I'm just getting this all ready so that I can just hit the ball rolling, really just getting my ducks in a row. So I'm going to get all these out. These are all shirts. I'll probably put them here and a bit here. This stuff I was just sorting from the flat lay. These have all come out a bit better now that they've been flat laid out, and there's still a few more piles that I'm sorting for some of the different washing, but I'll wait till I have a lot more to be able to process these out, because there's only about maybe 20 items there, so it doesn't make sense just to send them out. I'll wait till I have a bit more. So I'm going to unpack all this. Well, you saw that, but we've got all this, as you can see, and then we've got all of this as well. So we are chockers, mate, absolutely chockers. All right, team, it is Thursday, and we're here listening to Drew doing his double shot. What's he saying? Anyway, appreciate you, buddy. So we're just packing some items. We've got 17 to go out. We're on 40,393. Got some media, we've got some more media, we've got some more media, and then clothes. Not too much, because I did actually do a cheeky little post run yesterday as well. So we're going to pack all this up. I'm also going to, you're seeing this on Monday, you'll see the other video on Wednesday, which I'm going to take you through all the stuff that I just got from Sabres, because I just got back from Sabres. So You'll have to jump over or wait till Wednesday for that one. Anyway, future, past, present. Anyway, let's continue on. All right, so to wrap up this video, I do want to just kind of reiterate that, there are two big questions that you probably need to consider when walking away from this video. One, is a small business still a reseller? Now, I did address this already, and I think, yes, it is. Unless you're manufacturing something, then technically, I think anyone that's buying something for low and selling it higher is a reseller. So I'm not here to say that, oh, you're not a reseller, or I've changed from a reseller. I've changed. Yes, I have changed. I've got a small business mentality. And I think that's just enables me to get to where I want to be. It's the vessel or the approach that I'm taking, because it changes my mindset. And I also think we do need to consider, and I kind of mentioned it before, that while all resellers are businesses, not all businesses are resellers, right? In a traditional sense. And there is a distinction between the two, when it comes to focus and strategy and things like that. The other thing I want to leave you with is an additional consideration. But when you are going into this, whether it's a reseller mentality or a small business mindset, there are a few other things that maybe I didn't mention very well, which is time investment. Reselling can be very time consuming due to the need to continuously search for more product, right? But I also think when you operate as a small business, yes, obviously it's going to take time, but when you start to put in place the systems, the processes, and you're able to follow a repeatable model, it makes it easy to smash out reps and easier to be able to do that in volume. I'm not saying that it's easy or less time consuming, but it enables you to get better bang for buck. There's also big risk involved in both, right? Neither or is going to be always better. But I think for resellers, if you're just purely flipping a few things on the side, the risk is obviously quite low, but there's a risk that you buy something and it won't sell as you learn. For a small business, I think there is usually a lot more upfront cost to get things happening, as you start to acquire initial inventory and get those systems in play. But in the long term, it actually starts to then tick over consistently, knowing what your margins are going to be. The other things to consider is, the skills you bring to the table, how you're going to operate, how you operate differently. And that comes down to your prior knowledge and your unfair advantages. And that includes how you go about accounting, how you go about networking, how you go about with your customer service. It's different for everyone. The other thing is, for both parties, there is market saturation. For resellers, competition is typically coming from other people of your own peer group. Whereas a small business, it means the challenge more so lies on being able to differentiate in the market and build something that sets you apart, even if you are selling the same kind of item. So it is quite a challenge out there regardless. And that's something that I wanted to leave you with. Appreciate you being here. If you've got any questions, comments, chuck them down below. Otherwise, you have a wonderful day. Cheers.